Okay, so we are going to start momentarily. We're just waiting for folks to fill in and for the panelists all to arrive. In the meanwhile, get yourself something to drink, relax, get ready to see some really cool films. All right. Welcome, everyone, to the final day of the film festival. This is the day for the shorts. So if you're ready to see some short experiential films, you're in the right place. We're going to go ahead and kick it off with the films first, and then we'll come back, introduce our panelists, and have a discussion about what we've seen.
I look
I look toward the past.
toward the past,
I look toward the past, toward my ancestors and their splendid stories, to face the present moment with clarity and gain a glimpse of the future.
Where do I come from?
Sorry about the technical difficulties, folks. Just give us a second. All right, in the meanwhile, I hope you all have been enjoying the 3-day film festival. Some of the previous panels have been really. Oh, there we go. We're good. We're good.
Toward the past.
Toward the past.
The past.
I look toward the past, toward my ancestors and their splendid stories, to face the present moment with clarity and gain a glimpse of the future.
Where do I come from? Who do I come from? Who am I? These questions pull at the parts of me that are trapped, hidden, and lost. Those who hear my voice only simplify and flatten the stories of those who come before me, cramming me into boxes in order to fit neatly into their world.
My time has come to crack the lid and bring my full story to the surface. There are generations upon generations of people from who I come, a vibrant past long before the one that I feel in my body, the one that is written on my face.
From the sweet aroma of frankincense to the healing taste of cardamom and cloves, I want to feel the depth and power of this legendary history. I promise to appreciate the richness inherent in every aspect of my lineage.
I promise to celebrate stories, lost and found identities, as I discover a deeper version of myself.
As I draw from the cultural treasure trove of my stories to understand who my people were, where they came from, or what they did, I hope to honor my roots to find a home where I am centered.
My journey is vital to what I not only want to tell myself, but what I tell the world.
As I embark on this journey through time, space, and depth, I choose how to tell my story.
All right, that was from Other to Center.
لازم تجيب تحوش ساكن لازم طيب طيب تمام. سلام. لا حبيبي اليوم ما ينفعش، أنا معي مشوار مهم اليوم. صح، ما ينفعش. صباح الخير.
طفوا مرة ثانية؟
شكله.
يلا سهل يا بنتي، إن شاء الله يفتحوا.
ما انتبهتش. تعالي. ها، هو ذا بين تجهز. انتهينا.
يفعل تشتوا تاكلوا ولا لا؟
أنت دائما تستخدمي خيرات.
وانت دائما تدي خيرات.
أوه رجعنا.
ماما جبته ماما.
عقيل خرج اختك معاك.
أما أنا لازم أصير أصور.
انت وكاميرتك هذه.
مين اللي ما بيخرجها؟
ابوك هذا مشتيش حتى بسرة. سير حكي انت. سيري هذا يكلم ابوك.
خلي سليمة شوية تصور.
ما أنا ما أقدرش.
ليش؟ ما معك.
ليه ما لها أنت اللي عرفتها على الكاميرا.
أنا لازم أصير مكان ثاني.
أنت وحقك تصوير العمل كله ما يستاهلش. أنا لازم أروح أشتري لمك الطماطم عشان ترجع تستخدمه كله.
ليش بتفعلي؟ أنا قلت لي شو اليوم. لازم تفهمي أنا ما أقدرش نشيلش معي. ها، هو ذا بنطلع. اسمعيني، إيش رايش؟ بعد ما أنا أكمل مشواري شرجع أخرجش معي.
لا بتهلك.
سليمة خلص ما في طلعة الآن، ادخلي البيت. سليمة! سليمة!
Mother, mother, there's too many of you crying. Brother, 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 there's far too many of you dying.
You know we've got to find a way to bring some loving here today. Yeah, Father, Father, we don't need to escalate. You see, war is not the answer, for only love can conquer hate. You know we've got to find a way to bring some love in here today. Oh.
That was Selahy, which means the last video that we will be showing today is going to be Drone and the Kid, which should be queuing up right now.
भाई ये देखो
तंग न कर यार
अच्छा बोतल
के बाहर गिरकर तबाह हुआ अमरीकी साबित हुआ है। खुशकिस्मती से कोई जानी नुकसान नहीं हुआ, अलबत्ता 10 अफराद जख्मी हुए हैं। हम आपको उन ताज़ा तरीन खबरों से आगाह करवाते रहेंगे जो हमें जाए वाक़या पे मौजूद अपने नुमाइंदों से मिलती रहेंगी।
हेलो भाई, अस्सलाम वालेकुम।
वालेकुम सलाम। बोलो क्या लोगे?
भाई एक जूस देना।
मैं कहीं नहीं आ रहा। चलो क्यों? तुम्हें हमारे साथ चलना पड़ेगा। मैं कहीं नहीं आ रहा। नहीं जनाब नहीं। ये क्या लेके जा रहे हो? इससे क्या मतलब? हाँ मिलाए तुम्हें। अरे छोड़ो मेरा हाथ। मुझे मत हाथ मत लगाओ। मुझे टोको मत। ये मेरा सामान है। आप मुझे मत टोको। ए टोको मत। मुझे हथियार इस्तेमाल करने पर मजबूर मत करो। देखो देखो इसमें क्या है? कबाड़ी का सामान है। तुम्हें पता है ये क्या है? अरे जनाब कुछ नहीं है। ये अमेरिकन ड्रोन के पास है। अब ये हमारी मलकियत है। इसे पाने के लिए हम कुछ भी कर सकते हैं। अरे छोड़ो मुझे, हाथ मत लगाओ। ऊपर करो हाथ। ए कड़ी लगवाओ इसे। अरे छोड़ो मेरा हाथ। मुझे मत हाथ मत।
ये क्या है? हेलो।
This is United States Air Force Central Command. You're in possession of sensitive United States military equipment. Identify yourself and your location immediately. How copy? Over?
ये देखो शक्ल।
Some kid got a hold of the sensor ball. Identify yourself immediately. Identify yourself. What is your name? Uzair, you are in possession of highly sensitive military property. What is your location? Over?
मैं तुम्हें एक चीज दिखाता हूँ। ये देखो। ये वो रात लिया था पार्क में से। पार्क में एक बच्चा फेंक के इसको चला गया था। ये देखो। ठा ठा ठिकाओ।
इसी के दिल तुम्हारी जो पता है
ये को पहनते हैं ऐसे टोपी। हेलो।
Uzair, are you there? Talk to me if you're there, buddy.
अब मैं आपको नाच के दिखाऊंगा।
Nice move, buddy. Good job. Nice dance. You have some talent, kid.
Good.
Hey, buddy, where are you right now? Where are you right now, Uzair? What village are you in?
Listen, Uzair, here's the deal, buddy.
You can't keep this thing, all right? I need to bring it back to my boss, and if you tell me where you are, we can pick it up from you. Where are you, Uzair?
अभी तो मैंने किया था, थोड़ा सब्र रखो। अभी फिर से करता हूँ।
Where are you, Uzair? Uzair? Uzair, listen to me. Where are you? Tell me where you are, buddy.
भाई ये कुछ नहीं है।
तुम फिर से यहाँ पे क्या कर रहे हो?
और ये क्या है? तुम्हें पता है ये क्या है?
Uzair, listen to me. Where are you?
तुमने इसको अपना नाम बताया? तुम्हारा दिमाग खराब है? क्यों करते हो ऐसी हरकतें? तुम पागल हो, तुम कुछ नहीं समझते।
मेरा दोस्त है,
छोड़ दो इसे,
छोड़ दो। खुदा के लिए छोड़ दो। अब छोड़ दो इसे। ये शुरू क्यों नहीं हो रहा है?
ये आपने क्या किया? आप बहुत बुरे हो।
क्या हो रहा है? क्या हो रहा है? क्या कह रहे हो तुम दोनों यहाँ पे?
कुछ नहीं, हम बस यहाँ पे कुछ
हम डांस प्रैक्टिस कर रहे थे।
क्या?
डांस प्रैक्टिस।
बहुत रात हो गई, घरों को जाओ।
जी जनाब।
मुझे लगता है ये हमारे लिए बहुत खतरनाक साबित हो सकता है। तुम बहुत ही अजीब बच्चे हो।
All right. Thank you all for enjoying those shorts with us. We will now begin the panel portion. My name is Ilyas. I use they, them pronouns, and I am one of the co-founders of Haq, which is the Halal and Queer Collective here in DC. And I will be moderating today. And we have our panelists here with us. First, we have Ala Zabara. If I'm pronouncing it correctly, please correct me on your name, but definitely want to make sure I'm saying everything right. Ala Zabara is a hard of hearing Yemeni American director and cinematographer. Her latest short film, the one that we just watched, Selahy or My Weapon, was selected for competition shorts in Bentonville Film Festival and Holly Shorts, and recently finished a nonfiction project that was selected for the Arab American National Museum 2021, as she was one of the participants for its third annual Respectability Lab for entertainment professionals with disabilities. She also finished the Minorities in Film Lab and was a semifinalist for the Paxuros 2020 Women of Color Commercial Director Program to direct a spot for Subaru. You can check out more of her work at alatzabara.com. And then our second panelist today is Aisha Jamali. Aisha Jamali is a South Asian American Muslim woman. She is a creative, a storyteller, and co-founder of From Other to Center. Her roots trace back to the northern region of the Indian subcontinent, from where her family was displaced during British colonial rule and relocated to Pakistan. Having experienced othering throughout her life, she's dedicated to exploring the role of ancestral identity and embodying our full selves. And that was the first video we watched from Other to Center. We were also going to have Imran Khan join us, the film, the producer for The Drone and the Kid. Imran J. Khan is a graduate of NYU's MFA Film Production Program. Here he is, and a San Francisco Bay Area native. He has written and directed a number of award-winning short films, including Timmy the Second, The Drone and the Kid, and Prom. His films have screened at major film festivals, broadcasted nationally on PBS's Film School Shorts, and been awarded Vimeo Staff Pick. He currently works at Walt Disney Animation Studios as a first assistant editor and has previously assistant edited a number of films, including Space Jam: A New Legacy, Minions: The Rise of Guru, Disenchantment for Netflix, Shirkers, and XOXO. So, welcome, panelists. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm going to start off with the very first question, which is just going to be briefly talk a little bit about your style and focus as a Muslim filmmaker. And I don't want to call on people and make you feel uncomfortable. So, one person starts speaking, the others give them space, and just be mindful of the space that you are answering with so that others can have turns to speak. So whoever would like to go first.
I can go first. Can you all hear me okay? Sorry, can you repeat the question one more time? I had a little bit of trouble hearing.
Sure, no worries. Briefly talk a little bit about your style and focus as a Muslim filmmaker.
Okay, yeah, sorry about that. I'm traveling, and so I'm just sort of in the car right now. But I think my approach has been always like to focus on creating like a human story first, and then having that, if the story is about someone who happens to be Muslim, that's going to affect the story in fundamental ways, and like letting those fundamental ways lead the storytelling, and having those be I think the way I think about it is being authentic to being authentically Muslim makes a story better because it's more specific, and then that specificness, you get something that's universal, and then anybody can connect with it. And I think that's kind of what I focus on, is trying to find that universality within the specific. And hopefully that connects with audiences, and that's the part you can't control, is whether people connect with it or not. So
thank you.
I guess I can go the second. As you guys heard about me being a Huddersfield Muslim, I think that's my focus right now, is because I want to tell stories about people with disability in the Middle Eastern world, and not necessarily have to be in the war zones and all that, as what I did in my first film, but more like being a female disabled in the Arab world and all that. And also, I have the other identities, being a Muslim myself, so that's another focus that I want to include in the story. Yeah.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. So I would say that, the short that you watched from Other Two Center is actually the first sort of project that I've created of that sort, using video as a form of storytelling. And it's actually a part of a larger project that is titled From Other to Center, that was created by myself and my friends Anissa, Jibril, Isra Daraise, and Asha Noor. And we're all Muslim women, with different backgrounds and experiences, Black, African, South Asian, and Arab. And we found a lot of symmetry in our stories, and we saw a need for building, a sense of belonging by connecting to our ancestral identity. And so, like, it's been, in terms of storytelling through film and through video and exploring that, it's really been a personal journey for me in embracing my South Asian identity. So, like being visibly Muslim, I'm often assumed to be Arab, which has played a role somewhat in erasing my South Asian identity throughout my life. And so to kind of hold more firmly to my roots, being, both South Asian and Muslim, I explored that through looking at ancestral history and identity. And that's really something I couldn't have done without, art and the artists who created. So that kind of in turn inspired me to explore those topics and my own experiences with them through this type of storytelling.
Thank you. On that thread, in this field, sometimes it can feel a little bit maybe like you're pigeonholed into certain specific representations of being Muslim, or the perceptions or stereotypes that we receive from the mainstream media by folks maybe who aren't Muslim. Has that affected you all at all? Is that something that anyone wants to touch on or speak about, how being Muslim has maybe impacted you in this field of making movies and in this larger schema? I don't want to assume all of you are in the States, but if that is relevant as well.
I can speak a little bit about that. I think it's this very strange double-edged sword where sometimes you can be in a situation where everything, like you're talking about a story you're passionate about, or you're trying to get something made, and people want to kind of like in the in the effort of clarity, they may want things simplified. And I've seen that, and I think that's real. And so then you want to tell something complex, or and that thing gets simplified because people, in the effort of people understanding what you're trying to get across. But on the other side of the spectrum, I see that sometimes when you dive in and make something super hyper specific, and there are a lot of examples now that have recently come out, that really just are like so dynamic and vivid and so well done in terms from a craft level, that it doesn't, like, the people only love it more. So I think, because it's so specific and it's so personal, and it has something that's complex. So I think it can go either way. Like, it just depends maybe who you're pitching to and what they're trying to make. If they're trying to make something for, you know, like certain distribution and certain audiences, like they may want to like sort of dumb something down. But I've seen also that sometimes people want something that's spiritually complex, politically complex. Like they want that because it's different and it's new, and it's kind of a new world, like where these stories are finally being told. So people are interested in hearing them, given the right context. That's just my small sliver of experience with this stuff, but I'm curious what other people think.
Thank you for sharing.
I guess I'll jump in. And so let me make sure the question you said about the challenges that we face as a Muslim in the film industry, right?
Correct.
I think it's funny you're asking this question because the filmmaking itself is already a challenge without it being a Muslim itself. So that's the very first thing. And then after that, being a filmmaker who's not only a female, but is also a Muslim. So that adds a lot of layers of challenges. It's definitely a challenge that we're still, I'm still in it. I'm still learning about this whole thing. So I'm still seeing those challenges. And I think one of the biggest challenges is that we're trying to have a voice. If we want to tell things about justice, or if we want to tell stories that about what's going on in our countries, or being Muslim in this country, we're still not able to have that voice, or not able to tell those stories, and kind of like not just don't do it. So I think that's one of the challenges that I'm still having in order to get funded to do that project. It'll be like, okay, no, I have to do something else, whatever they want, and it's not easy. So, yeah.
Thank you for that insight.
I'm, very, very new to this industry, so I can't really speak to kind of the patterns that are showing up there from my experiences. But I think, just in in artist spaces and kind of creative spaces. I think, I'd agree with Imran. Like, I'm seeing a lot more interest in people's complexities and the, very kind of unique experiences that we have, and being able to tell those stories. And, there's and people finding ways to connect to that through whatever it is, whether it's complex, and maybe isn't an exact replica of, a person's individual experience, but there are usually ways that people can connect to those stories. So I think it seems to me like there's more room for it, like even in calls for submissions and things like that. Like, I'm seeing more identities, I guess, represented, like people, even, as someone who's South Asian, like there's specific mention of South Asian experiences or South Asian American experiences. And I'm not really used to seeing that. It's usually vaguer terms, things, kind of identities more that are more glossed over, I guess, or put into like umbrella categories. So it seems to me, from my limited experience as well, like there's more interest in in those very specific stories, I think, that people are trying to tell.
Absolutely. And we definitely are excited to see those opportunities continue, hopefully, to grow as more folks become more and more aware of the nuances of our, as you were saying, complexities. The second question that we're going to go into is just talking a little bit about how you felt your short or your film fit the narrative of this film festival. So it is the 20th anniversary of September 11th this year. 2021 has marked 20 years since 9/11, and we're kind of looking at the ways that that incident has, in essence, as is the title of the film festival, shattered that sort of old world that we had, the old experiences. They've kind of all been blown to smithereens, and now there's this new post 9/11 world that we're living in, and everything kind of has a tinge of that. And so we just wanted to see maybe if we could talk a little bit about how your films you felt connected to the theme or how they tie in and relate to it. And then also what the 20th year anniversary may mean to you personally, if you wanted to share.
I'll go if no one's going to jump in right away. But yeah, I think The Drone and the Kid definitely is a story that could only take place in a post 9/11 world. I mean, it's just, and there's something maybe heartbreaking about just the circumstances of it. And then the sort of the global reach of the United States military apparatus, and in what corners of the world it affected people, and setting something that's like a Spielbergian fantasy in that is just my way of sort of exploring that in some kind of like in more of a fantasy sort of way. But yeah, that's kind of how I see it, connecting to that global war on terror that we all have been affected by in some way or another.
I can share. Oh, okay, thanks. Yeah, I think that, I've really felt lost, like navigating a world where, I'm kind of seen as the wrong color, the wrong religion, the wrong etc., and how that instantly makes me other. And there's a lot of pain in trying to minimize myself to make my identity like less complicated for people. Um, and shedding that expectation, I think, is what really feels like the radical remedy of, not feeling other anymore, and doing that through a journey of discovering who I really am, and using that, newfound knowledge or appreciation of my identity, whatever it is, to move from feeling othered to feeling centered. And connecting that to, 9/11, I think for me, growing up Muslim post 9/11, I kind of always felt like I was apologizing for my existence, whenever Muslims were portrayed negatively in the media, or like literally being forced to debate my high school teachers about Islam, things like that, like being told by community leaders not to wear darker black hijabs, and to always like smile, so that other people wouldn't see you as threatening and stuff like that. And it's just such a huge burden. So having been, I think, 20 years since 9/11, since all of that really started in my life, and I think finally, like, being in adulthood and seeing the burden that was really being placed on myself and my community, it's finally like a place where I can shed that responsibility. And I'm coming, I'm much more at a place where, and I see a lot of my peers, and also I think the generation after us, um, really not caring as much. Like, if people don't understand what being Muslim is, like, if you don't understand how I'm Muslim but I don't speak Arabic, or how my friend is Muslim but she doesn't cover her hair, it's just like, I'm done making myself easier to understand. So that's kind of a lot of what came up for me when creating From Other to Center, and having that sort of um, kind of declaration of like, no, like we're not going to let ourselves be minimized in that way. We're going to celebrate who we are in all parts of our identity, and discover, deeper versions of ourselves. And all of that the whole, that's sort of a reaction, right, to being othered, and all of that started in my life, from 9/11.
Um, I'm for me, I think I'm a little different because I didn't grow up in America. I didn't experience the 9/11 in this country. So, but I was evacuated from the war, if my family and I. So it was kind of like, okay, I came here because of the war that is being caused by the same country that I'm here as well, and that is something different. So, the 9/11 thing is a little different for me, from my experience. And I think, but after that, after being in this country, hearing the stories of what people have been living for, and um, like telling the stories of like we have been struggling, we've been living here, as being targeted, be this and this and etc. It made me feel like, okay, the stories that we talk, because back on home, it's kind of related somehow. Maybe not in the same place, but we're in the same area, we're in the same place that we want to fight. We're in the same position that we are trying to make for a better future. Hopefully that the next generation will see from our film, which is my film, how it's related to the festival. The theme of it is just that there is still struggle out there. It's just not here only, but we're all in the same place. We're all in the same boat. We're just not seeing each other, I guess.
Absolutely. And I do think that, especially because of the heavy nature of both Ala and Imran's films, both kind of depicting war, that is very accurate, that, that would not be possible. Like, that world only exists because of 9/11. Although, of course, the American military is doing a lot of other things, so it's not just 9/11, but that those parallels are definitely there. So we'll go ahead into the third question, and then we'll take some questions from the audience if there are any. But if there's not, don't worry, I have some more lined up for you. So the third question was, as Muslims in a post 9/11 world, we are familiar with the war on terror and the ways it has impacted us and our loved ones. If you're comfortable doing so, share a little bit more about its impact on you and or your family or loved ones if you don't have maybe a specific individual story. And how that impacts your filmmaking. And this would be, if you're working on an upcoming project, this would be a great time to let us know what's coming up for you. What should we be looking out for in the world of Muslim filmmakers?
I think for me personally, it just really put a strain on feelings of otherness that were there already prior to 9/11. Just growing up, being Pakistani in the Bay Area, like you're and going to like public school and all that, like you're just going to already feel a little bit like not, you're going to already feel a little otherized just by that. And then post 9/11, it just made that like way more palpable and way more like, yeah, you have to get into discussions with kids at school, like at a young age, and talking about this kind of like, geopolitical, you're trying to defend things about your own faith and your own people, and trying to represent Muslims everywhere you are. And so I think that just like that's kind of the your psyche has changed kind of post in a post 9/11 world. And I think most of us are still in some way, if you experienced it as a young person, it's probably going to be something that it's always going to be there as a formidable thing that happened and that you were forced to react to. So I think that's in that way, that's how it affected me personally.
I can share next. I think yes, I'd agree. There's so, some of the things I mentioned before about just feeling like you have to, seem as non-threatening as possible, and almost like, just placing the burden of the misunderstandings of what it meant to be Muslim in America was placed on like you as an individual. And that was really that was a lot to take on as a young person, for many years, and to feel that responsibility. And I think another thing too is, prior to 9/11, I don't really remember anyone that I encountered like in school like knowing what a Muslim was. But knowing that I was like, from Pakistan or identified as South Asian, like people had a general understanding of that. But there wasn't like an issue with me being both of those things. Like that was something that was fine because they were both kind of different. So, people didn't have any assumptions, I guess, about either. But then definitely after 9/11, it became really difficult to identify as both, for me personally. I would have to kind of choose like which got more attention depending on which space I was in. And I think that's something that still persisted today, right? Like the conflation of Muslim and Arabs. And even now, like, I've had colleagues, in spaces where I'm like trying to talk more about my South Asian identity. Like when I introduce myself and things like that, my colleagues gave me like a card that said Namaste on it, which is a greeting of Hindu origin. Not necessarily something Muslims say to each other. So it's like, and I had another experience where like I was talking about how, I'm visibly Muslim, so I'm kind of assumed to be Arab, but I'm not Arab, I'm South Asian. And the person at the end of the conversation, like, kind of took away from that, saying like, oh, like she's visibly Muslim, but not necessarily Muslim, like that type of a complete misunderstanding of what I was saying. And so it's one of those things that's, I think, really been difficult, to be Muslim and another identity unless it's Arab. And yeah, I'm who knows what that would have looked like if we did not experience 9/11.
Yeah,
I
I would
think for
agree
me,
that just that I thought that was a really interesting point that people didn't really have an understanding of who Muslims were before 9/11, and 9/11 like defined that for a lot of people. And so it was just very different. And like the 90s were a very different experience of just people not even knowing what Pakistan was, like let alone like what religion they were or anything. Like so there was just like pure ignorance. So that resonated with what you said.
I was just gonna say, for me, it's like gonna go the same comment as I previously said, that I didn't grow up here to see this whole right and left, post and pre. But I think I was just gonna say that people will say with the impact of it, and they usually say let's celebrate it's an anniversary and all that. But for me, I was gonna be like, it's more like not an anniversary, but it's supposed to be more like it's kind of a trauma maybe, or something like a scarf, or quote unquote a scarf for the Muslim community, because they're still gonna remember about it. They still live it. So it's something that they're still in it. We're still in this fight, I guess.
Thank you. And I also do appreciate, I know you, I like keep saying that it's a little bit different for you, but I do appreciate your viewpoint, because it is going to be a little bit different, coming from a different country and not having been in America during that period of time. It's definitely important to have lots of different voices in the room. So wanted to recognize that. And then if we are waiting on any questions from the audience, I'm going to go ahead and start asking some more questions. It doesn't seem that any of the participants have dropped any questions yet. So I'll start asking maybe more specific questions about your individual films, and we'll direct questions to folks individually. So first, I wanted to ask Aisha about the items that are in the video. So any of the items that you're panning over, you did mention that you had several friends with differing identities. If you want to talk a little bit about the significance of those items and why they were chosen.
Yes, absolutely. So there's one. So the narration that is kind of over the film is something that myself and the three other women I named earlier that we wrote together. And it's really kind of like a declaration of our intention for what this project From Other to Center means to us. And so there's this line in the film that says, "I promise to appreciate the richness inherent in every aspect of my lineage. I promise to celebrate stories, lost and found identities, as I discover a deeper version of myself." So the artifacts and kind of the family heirlooms and cultural pieces that are in the background are what we're kind of promising to celebrate. So in mine specifically, there are things, the artifacts that I chose, they represent my South Asian identity. They're often things that I would wear or use during celebration. So there's like jewelry, things that have been handed down to me, or specific styles of jewelry that are have some sort of cultural significance, and a shawl that has like embroidery on it and that kind of a thing. So all things that like when I wear them or see them like very strongly, I remind me of my South Asian background. And the same for the other artifacts that are in the film. There's my friends Anissa and Asha, who's Somali, and they have artifacts there that are kind of unique to Somali culture, and patterns and things like that. And for Isra, who is from Jordan and has Palestinian roots, for her as well, it's the specific type of Palestinian embroidery that's there, and different things like that that we personally had. So like we have memories associated with them. There are things that are a part of our family history, that type of a thing. And that's really what we wanted to capture as that inspiration for starting this like process of really exploring what our ancestral identity is and how we connect to it.
Thank you for sharing. And then, Ala, for your film, you focused a lot on the girl, and how I noticed there were some moments where she was not really receptive to putting her hearing aid in, and was like telling her brother, like, your sign language is crap. And so, talking a little bit about those kind of everyday experiences, because like obviously we have the larger context of the war torn, like setting the stage of that, but there's also that kind of everyday interaction, family interaction between her and her family members, watching her father and her mother fight. I noticed that when we were looking at it from her point of view, we had the noises dimmed, right? Do you want to talk a little bit about the intentional choices you're making when you are presenting people with disabilities on the screen at all, or any part of the film you wanted to highlight specifically that you felt strongly about?
That's a good question. A really good one. So the thing is about this whole experience, about the sound when she's taken off her hearing aid and all that, it's because, you know, when you see the film, she's not really aware about her surroundings. She's not really hearing the bomb. She's not really hearing everything, which is why I wanted to put that kind of perspective and her point of view so that you can see or feel her or be on her shoe, that everything is dangerous around her. But it's also that is a weapon for her, that hearing aid, because it could be dangerous thing, but it's also a safety thing for her. And that's why she didn't have it at that moment when she was taking it off and put it in. She not wanted to hear the sound. She just want to live her life. She's an innocent child that I wanted to portray. And I forgot what was the second question.
The second part was I'm just asking if there was anything else in the film you really wanted to highlight that you felt very strongly about.
Strongly about. I think one thing that I was so strongly about is the fact that the film, I'm not bragging about it, but it was directed by a female filmmaker who's hard of hearing. I think this is something that I want the audience to take away from, is that I felt strongly about it. Is someone who also had the same experience as myself, as I put it myself and a little bit in the story to share with. Yeah.
Fantastic. And then for you, Imran, for your film, one thing that I really enjoyed was that Uzair gave the drone a janaza. That was very sweet, right? And so I really liked that part. But there was a little bit in the beginning too where he was like really focused on the music and the dance. Were there any aspects of that that you wanted to talk about, that motif maybe going throughout? I noticed that there was kind of a reconciliation in the end. Like after the brother had hit him, there was kind of a, you're a strange kid, but I love you kind of feeling going on. So maybe talking about the familial ties there, or about kind of that motif of maybe him being a little bit odd compared to the rest of the characters in the film.
Yeah, I think if in all of the shorts I've made and even the feature that I'm writing now and all of that, like there's always, and that's just like a part of me, is like exploring people who are left of center, who are trying to find their way through the world, and maybe they don't quite fit in with one thing or the other, and maybe that has to do with being in a post 9/11 world where you never feel like you fit anywhere, and that maybe is infused, and that was a big inspiration for Uzair's character, and why he sort of, you know, he's looking for attention, he's looking for validation, and he's not quite getting that, and this drone, this apparatus becomes where he receives that, or feels like he receives it. So that's kind of where that came from. And then, yeah, I really liked that his relationship with the brother had some, you know, it's not a, I think I like that kind of cultural specificity of, maybe they do have sort of like, he has a kind of a harsher brother, but then, you know, he still cares about him, and they kind of get out of a sticky situation together. And I like exploring those kind of relationships, and I'm really happy that you liked the janaza at the end, because that's something that I like. You know, it's like everything needs levity. You know, like even something that's like weird or scary or sad, like all films, like I like to explore levity, and I think that it brings people in, and it can make people make people watch something that maybe they wouldn't normally watch, if you can make them laugh along the way or make them smile. So that's just where that comes from.
Fantastic. All right. Well, those are the last of my questions, and we do not have any questions from the audience, though I do see some comments about loving your contributions and loving the shorts. And then I did want to just offer, before we close, if there was any final statements you wanted to make, either about your upcoming work, yourself, your short today. I wanted to give you space to say it before we close out.
I just by coincidence tomorrow the Drone and the Kid is launching on UsHub, which is a new streaming platform for Muslim content. So check it out there if or I mean if you like the film and you want to share it with people, you can find it there starting tomorrow. So that's just a plug to where to watch it again.
Awesome.
I just wanted to say that I'm so grateful to be a part of this. You know, as someone who's just starting out in this is our very first project we've ever done. It's very exciting to be a part of this. And I'm grateful to have learned about your work, Ala and Imran, through participating in this as well. So that's awesome. And then if people are interested in following From Other to Center, we're on Instagram at From Other to Center, and we have a website, fromothertocenter.com. If you want to see more, what we've been working on next is actually a portrait series where we're using more of that like cultural clothing and family artifacts to physically and visually like embody our ancestral identity. And yeah, I've done a photo series on that. So people can see that on our Instagram page.
Awesome. Fantastic.
As for me, I'm definitely like the same as Aisha. I'm very early on my career. This is my very first film that I did. So I hope you enjoyed it. And again, thank you for having me as well. And I enjoyed all of the films as well. As for my next project, it's very hard. That's a very tricky question because we don't really know what's next, honestly. But I'm working on my second short, trying to come up with another short that I want to make it in order to go as a proof of concept for the future film. So
Fantastic.
yeah.
Well, we wish you the best of luck in all of your future endeavors, and hopefully we'll see your work again on the big silver screen. Thank you all for joining us. I'm gonna let the tech close us out.